Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tracking a massive, incredibly dynamic global movement, exploring exactly how Brazilians are bringing their vibrant language, music, and traditions all across the world. You know, when we think of Brazil, we usually picture this rich, energetic culture contained right within its own borders. But the reality? That culture is highly mobile, and it's established some deep, flourishing roots far beyond South America. Let's get right into it.
So, outside of Brazil, where do Brazilians actually live? Now, at first glance, that might seem like a pretty straightforward geography question, but as we unpack the data today, you're going to see that the answers reveal a really fascinating, complex map of global migration. It's not just about people randomly moving from point A to point B. It's a movement primarily driven by the pursuit of work, higher education, and the search for totally new opportunities on the global stage.
The core motivations driving this worldwide migration are actually pretty straightforward. It's all about work, education, and chasing those new opportunities. That is the bedrock of the Brazilian diaspora. But instead of just rattling off a list of countries for you, we are going to count down the top 5 international destinations for Brazilians. By diving into these specific spots, we'll reveal not just where they go, but exactly how and why they thrive there, building these amazingly vibrant communities that completely transform their host countries.
All right, let's jump in. Destination 5, Japan. Kicking off our countdown at number 5, we're heading all the way to Asia, where we actually find a surprisingly strong historical and cultural bridge. Coming in at number 5 is Japan. Now, to really understand this specific community, we've got to talk about the Nikkei Brazilians. Basically, these are Brazilian immigrants of Japanese descent who have migrated to Japan. It's this absolutely fascinating reverse migration pattern. Historically, tons of Japanese people migrated to Brazil. Now, generations later, those of Japanese descent are actually returning to Japan to capitalize on new economic opportunities. It's a true full-circle moment in global migration.
And wow, they are making a massive impact once they arrive. A lot of these immigrants work heavily in the manufacturing industry, which, as we know, is an absolute cornerstone of the Japanese economy. Because of this, massive hubs have popped up in industrial cities like Hamamatsu and Nagoya. Imagine walking down a street in Hamamatsu and suddenly hearing Portuguese, or stopping by a local market for traditional Brazilian ingredients. They aren't just working there, they're building a real home away from home. These neighborhoods are packed with Portuguese-speaking schools, local markets for traditional foods, and cultural events that keep their heritage totally alive and well right in the heart of Japan.
Moving right along to destinations 4 and 3, the UK and Paraguay.
Landing at number 4 on our global countdown, we jump over to Europe with the United Kingdom.
Over here, the motivations shift a little bit. The Brazilian community in the UK is heavily focused on higher education, as well as finding solid employment in the hospitality and services sectors. But what's truly remarkable is how well established its community has become socially. They've totally woven themselves into the local fabric by opening successful restaurants and hosting frequent social events. Plus, they definitely bring the party with them. They're famous for hosting these incredibly vibrant samba festivals that inject a massive burst of tropical energy right into the middle of the often rainy UK. Now, dropping down to number 3, we're heading right next door to Brazil itself, Paraguay. This one brilliantly illustrates the kind of economic synergy that happens right across a border, and it brings us to a really important group known as the Brasiguaios. These are Brazilian immigrants in Paraguay who prominently work in farming and trade. So we're not talking about overseas migration here. This is deep, cross-border integration that intimately links the two economies.
And these Brasiguaios are absolutely vital to Paraguay's economy. Because of their heavy involvement in agricultural farming and cross-border trade, they've built a super strong, concentrated presence in cities like Ciudad del Este. In fact, their influence is so huge in these hubs that Portuguese is widely spoken in local businesses and markets. It's just a seamless blend of the two cultures in everyday commerce.
It's honestly pretty incredible to look at these two destinations side by side. In the UK, the move is distinctly driven by higher education, studying, and the hospitality industry, which culminates in these large-scale social events. But right next door in Paraguay, it's deeply rooted in the border economy, really focusing on farming, trade, and direct business integration. Two completely different pathways, right? But both result in thriving, influential Brazilian communities.
Getting closer to the top now. Destination 2, Portugal.
Taking the number 2 spot for the highest population of Brazilians outside of Brazil is, fittingly, Portugal. We're traveling back across the Atlantic to the historical motherland.
The dynamic here is just incredibly multi-layered. Obviously, like our other spots, this migration is driven by jobs and education. But there's also this really powerful cultural pull. reconnecting with Portuguese ancestry. Thanks to that deep historical tie and the shared language, Brazilians are absolutely thriving in major cities like Lisbon, Porto, and Faro. And it's very much a two-way cultural exchange. The Brazilian community is building a massively growing presence in local Portuguese media, opening up local businesses, and fully integrating Brazilian cuisine into the everyday culture of Portugal.
And here we are, the crown jewel, destination number 1. The moment we've been building towards this entire explainer, the absolute top destination for Brazilian immigrants anywhere in the world is the United States.
Let's break down where this massive population is actually settling. Brazilians are primarily heading to states like Florida, Massachusetts, and New York. And within those states, they've built these huge, bustling hubs in cities like Miami, Boston, and Orlando. That makes the U.S. the most popular destination in the world for Brazilians. And the result? A massive, vibrant cultural exchange. Brazilian culture is vastly represented across these American cities through highly popular restaurants, thriving businesses, and large-scale cultural events that have literally become staples of these local American communities.
Now, let's look at that lasting cultural footprint.
Stepping back for a second, just look at the incredible global footprint we've mapped out together. From number 5 in Japan, where they power the manufacturing industries of Hamamatsu and Nagoya, to the UK at number 4, enriching hospitality and study, right over to Paraguay at 3, driving farming and trade in Ciudad del Este. Then we've got Portugal at number 2, where ancestry meets modern media in Lisbon and Porto, all the way to the number 1 destination, the US, where business and culture intertwine in Miami, Boston, and Orlando. What this tells us is that Brazilian migration isn't just about moving people around. It's about injecting highly dynamic skills, diverse industries, and rich heritage into host nations across the entire globe.
There's a quote from our source material that I absolutely love because it just perfectly captures everything we've talked about today. It says, "From Asia to Europe and the Americas, Brazilians have built vibrant communities around the world, bringing their language, music, and traditions with them. Whether it's the energy of samba in the UK, the dedication to manufacturing in Japan, or the bustling trade markets in Paraguay, they always, without fail, bring their beautiful traditions with them, making the whole world just a little bit more vibrant."
So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. As our borders keep blurring thanks to the globalization of food, language, and culture, how are immigrant cultures, like the incredibly vibrant Brazilian diaspora we just explored, shaping and enriching the very streets where you live? Take a look around your own community today, and you just might see that global impact right in front of you. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.